This is Sky News at 6 o'clock, the top stories. The Chancellor's phone number available online, data breach at the Tory conference as ministers' details are exposed. Well, it came just hours ahead of Theresa May's arrival for a 5-day test at home. At least 384 people have died in a tsunami in Indonesia. There are fears that that number could grow. Also this evening, rationing EpiPens, a shortage of adrenaline injections to save the lives of those with major allergies. And Team Europe penned day 2 of the Ryder Cup with a commanding lead in Paris. Very good evening to you. We start with news of an extraordinary security lapse on the Conservative Party phone app at their annual conference in Birmingham. The lapse meant that it was possible to log on as anyone who'd registered to the conference, including cabinet ministers, and see their mobile phone numbers, change their profile picture and even send messages in their name. Well, the vault was closed this afternoon, but it's not yet clear for how long the problem had existed. Well, our chief political correspondent John Craig is in Birmingham for us, where the conference is taking place. Very good evening to you, John. What's the reaction been there to this security breach? Because, of course, it's a bit embarrassing.
Embarrassment is the reaction, really. I was talking to the Conservative Party chairman. He was very proudly saying it's all sorted now. They say it's been resolved, back up and running. What happened was, in the middle of the afternoon today, as we revealed here on Sky News, the personal details of ministers and other MPs could be accessed by anyone after this lapse. Now, the mobile phone numbers and email addresses of, for example, Philip Hammond, the Chancellor, the former Foreign Secretary Boris Johnson, were among those could be accessed without a password. And so several ministers, including those with top-ranking security clearance, were reported to have received nuisance calls from the public after the breach. Anyone could type in an attendee's email address, MPs, for example. You can get theirs from the parliamentary website. And it was possible to change the photos and details of cabinet members, MPs, journalists, plenty of us here, and local councillors, activists and so on attending this conference. So, for example, we know Philip Hammond was affected. We know that Michael Gove, the Environment Secretary, his picture was reportedly changed to one of Rupert Murdoch, and his email to a fictional Sun newspaper address. Sky News' own political editor, Faisal Islam, was among those who could easily be searched and his details made available. Now, it's a company called Crowd Comms. They're from Australia. They've got a lot of questions to answer. The Tories say the technical issue's now been resolved. The app is functioning securely. We're investigating further and apologise for any concern. The Labour Party are gloating, as you might expect. John Trickett, their Cabinet Office spokesman, said, "How can we trust this Tory government with our country's security when they can't even build a conference app that keeps the data of their members, MPs and others attending safe and secure?" Well, plenty of security here. Not the app, though, although it is sorted, as Brandon Lewis says.
Well, John, getting on to the politics itself, of course, Theresa May has arrived in the last few moments or so. What's the mood like among the party faithful?
Well, I've talked to a few cabinet ministers and various other people. They're desperately hoping that it's all not going to boil over into a huge row over Brexit. Now, Prime Minister, one of the questions the PM was asked, she didn't answer as she arrived here, was, is your Brexit plan dead and buried, or words to that effect? Well, cabinet ministers, loyalist cabinet ministers, are hoping to keep the plan alive. Remember, one MP called it as dead as a dodo a week or so ago. Boris Johnson wrote a 4,500 words attack in the Daily Telegraph yesterday. He's doing a big Chuck Checkers rally on Tuesday. We're going to hear speeches from Eurosceptic cabinet ministers tomorrow, for example, Liam Fox and Penny Mordaunt. Now, so far they are staying loyal to the plan, but every little word will be examined for the nuances, everything that cabinet ministers say about that. As for the conference itself, well, it's all very slick over in the conference centre, lots of fancy slogans and stuff. Talking of Brandon Lewis, remember last year on the last day when Theresa May was speaking, she had that cough, a spoof P45, the letters started to fall off the set. Well, of course, when I spoke to Brandon Lewis on Sky News a little earlier, I asked him, did he fear a repeat of that? This is the exchange. Have you made sure the set is all nailed together this year for the PM speech?
I think people will see a really impressive conference all round this year. I hope they'll enjoy it and make sure everything stays in one place.
Well, he was due to praise the app in his speech tomorrow. He opens conference tomorrow. Then it's Liam Fox, it's Penny Mordaunt, Foreign Secretary Jeremy Hunt speaking tomorrow. Next day, Monday, it's the economy. A lot of ministers speaking in that. There's Esther McVey, there's Greg Clark, business. The Chancellor speaks on Monday. Tuesday, the highlight is probably not in the main hall. It will almost certainly be the big speech by Boris Johnson at his Chuck Chequers rally. Then it's the PM speech on Wednesday. Will they be any more united on Brexit and the Chequers plan on Wednesday when they leave than they are now as they arrive? I suspect not.
OK, John, thank you. Well, the former Foreign Secretary Boris Johnson has told Sky News that he supports the campaign to make leaders' debates happen at general elections. And a reminder that you can join the campaign by signing our petition at skynews.com/make debates happen and by using the hashtag make debates happen on social media. The authorities in Indonesia say at least 384 people have now been killed in the tsunami that followed a big earthquake, but the number of dead is expected to rise. Waves of up to 3 metres high swept through the city of Palu on Sulawesi Island, not long after the authorities had lifted a tsunami warning. From Jakarta, our Southeast Asia correspondent Siobhan Robbins sent this report.
The terrifying moment when the wave hit. A wall of water 2 metres high crashing onto the land, sweeping away homes and buildings. A tsunami triggered by a powerful earthquake. Residents of Palu on Sulawesi in Indonesia had already sought refuge on higher ground and inside tall buildings. But as the water surged towards them, they fled in fear and panic.
Earthquake and tsunami warnings.
Allergy sufferers are being advised to rely on out-of-date EpiPens amid a global shortage of the adrenaline injections. The American manufacturer Pfizer says it's suffering from a manufacturing problem, but it's working tirelessly to increase production. And it follows the inquest into the death of a 15-year-old girl who suffered an allergic reaction to sesame seeds in a Pret-a-Manger baguette. Enda Brady has this report.
For anyone who suffers from severe allergies, the EpiPen is not only a part of daily life, it is potentially a lifesaver. Decided to extend the use-by date on some EpiPens by 4 months. Enda Brady, Sky News.
Well, let's take a look at some of the day's other news stories now, shall we? And a nightclub in Bournemouth has been evacuated in the early hours of this morning due to unconfirmed reports of pepper spray use. 40 people were treated by paramedics at the scene. One person was taken to hospital as a precaution.
It was so busy. There was thousands of students there enjoying one of the major Freshers events here in Bournemouth. And we saw the main artist being ushered off stage, and then I saw a fireman in full kind of gear walk past me. People that had said to me they'd come out, they were coughing. This guy that I spoke to, his friend was being treated by paramedics. He said he was struggling to breathe. He was apparently quite close to it. But people had like kind of their eyes itching, or kind of tearing up.
A man's died in Burnley after the car he was in collided with a lamppost following a police chase. The incident happened on Colne Road in the early hours of this morning, where the vehicle carrying 3 men was asked to stop by police. The 23-year-old man died at the scene. The other 2 are being treated in hospital. Catalan Regional Police have clashed with demonstrators during a counter-protest ahead of Monday's 1-year anniversary of an illegal independence referendum. The referendum sparked a huge police crackdown and plunged Spain into its worst political crisis in a decade. Today's march in Barcelona was being held by Spanish police calling for wage increases. President Trump's pick for the US Supreme Court says he'll cooperate with an FBI investigation into sexual assault allegations. Brett Kavanaugh's nomination was approved by a congressional committee last night, but only if investigators are allowed to look again at his conduct. From New York, our US correspondent Hannah Thomas-Peter sent this report.
Our court! Thank you, guys.
Our court! Do you think that he's telling the truth to the country?
You have power when so many women are powerless.
These just some of the scenes from one of the most dramatic weeks in modern American politics in New York.
You're watching Sky News. Coming up, why Welsh residents are kicking up a stink over their bin collection. Welcome back. Let's get a check now on all the latest sports.
Thank you. Yes, coming up, it's Advantage Europe at the Ryder Cup.
Look forward to that bit later on. Now, for many people, putting the rubbish bins out is a bit of a chore, but for some residents in North Wales, it's a job they'd love to do more often. And that's after a local council reduced bin collections to just once a month. Now, it's got people in a bit of a stink, so Sky's Fraser Maud went to check it out.
With a recycling record second only to Germany, Wales is clearly getting a grip on reducing household waste. No.
Time now to get a check on all the latest weather.
By the springtime flowers of a mountain lake, to the first snowfall on a winter's day.
It'll be windy tomorrow with showers in the north and a lot more cloud in the south. Before then, though, most places will have a fine evening, but Scotland and the northwest of Ireland will be breezy with a few showery outbreaks. Northern parts can expect a little more rain tonight, turning mainly dry later on, but a scattering of showers will follow to the northwestern half of Scotland. Elsewhere, most places will be dry, but Wales and the Midlands may see a few spots by the morning, and it'll be pretty chilly in the south with a patchy frost. England and Wales will be much cloudier on Sunday morning after a sunny start in the south, with a few showers near western coast. Scotland, Ireland and Northern Ireland, meanwhile, will see good sunny spells, but there will be a few showers around, mostly over Scotland, where they'll turn pretty wintry on the peaks. It will be cooler and fresher for most, quite chilly in the wind. Southern Britain will brighten up during the afternoon, but showers will move across northern England and into North Wales.
The weather, sponsored by Qatar Airways.
You're watching Sky News. Coming up, Republicans in the United States fear political fallout as debate continues over Trump's Supreme Court nominee, Brett Kavanaugh. You're watching Sky News. The top stories this hour. Sky News has uncovered a large data security breach on the Conservative Party conference app, which meant that personal details of cabinet ministers, including mobile phone numbers, were available to anyone. At least 384 people are now known to have been killed after an earthquake and tsunami struck Indonesia. Allergy sufferers are being advised to rely on out-of-date EpiPens amid a global shortage of the adrenaline injectors. But let's get more now on our main story in the Conservative data breach. I'm joined from Miami in the United States by Greg Sim, the CEO of the cybersecurity company Glasswall Solutions. Good evening to you. First off, are you surprised by what's happened?
No, Rebecca. I think I'm laughing because every time we do this, we kind of go through the same questions again. You know, are you surprised? I'm not. And as much as it's a huge embarrassment factor for the Conservative Party, it just doesn't surprise you anymore, these types of leaks.
How is it possible that something that appears to be quite simple could have happened?
Well, it's down really to poor development. You know, I mean, not only the poor development by the people that have built this application, but of course, the people at the other end in the Conservative Party that really should have done basic checks and sums around, you know, passwords and email addresses and can anybody see it? You know, it's pretty basic stuff, really.
And would you say that this classes as an actual data protection law breach? Does it go that far?
I mean, it likely will if you think about it, because at the end of the day, the developers, of course, they could be sued or whatever by the Conservative Party, but the Conservative Party is at risk here because they've got a duty of care for the data for the people that are using the apps. So absolutely, I would think.
Obviously, we haven't heard from the company involved. We understand it is an Australian company. What kind of repercussions are on these companies if, of course, it is established that they were at fault?
Yeah, well, under GDPR, as we've all heard nowadays, it's you know, basically I would imagine the Conservative Party will still be liable under GDPR, although in Australia, they if it does class as a data breach under GDPR, then they're not exempt. You know, it's anyone doing business in Europe. So certainly you're looking at definitely the Conservative Party, I would say, and possibly them as well under GDPR.
Is it unusual that an Australian company would have been used by the Conservative Party?
No, not really. I mean, it's who's really developing apps, isn't it? And at the end of the day, they've chose that app as the best for them. I mean, I've not done the research on the app itself, but it's clearly, as I said before, they've not checked it. They've not checked the basics. They've not checked the principles around security. And I think that goes to show nowadays how a lot of the substitute around our data privacy against the usage of social media and apps. The leakage is huge nowadays. It's incredible, really.
So in terms of breaches, how serious would you say this one is?
It's not that. I mean, listen, at the end of the day, it's not that serious. It's not like Facebook recently, and stuff like that. It's a huge embarrassment for the government. And, arguably, I think the person, the journalist, maybe in hindsight might have given them a little bit of heads up. I'm not saying that she shouldn't have published, but at least maybe give them a bit of a heads up on, look, this thing you're using is dodgy, right?
Well, I suppose when there's such high-profile figures involved, like, the Chancellor Philip Hammond, that ups the ante, doesn't it? That is why people are considering this to be pretty serious, because his phone number is now in the public domain. Have there been any episodes like this in the past that you can think of?
Yeah, there's none I can think of, and of course, it's most of the episodes in the past. I mean, this isn't an attack, as it were, in a conventional sense, and certainly in my world, it's more about the hacking side of it. So this is really just poorly developed apps. So you're right. I mean, if it wasn't for the fact that it was so high profile in that domain, we probably wouldn't have heard of it, or somebody might have tweeted it and they would have fixed it up and everyone would have got on with their lives. But most of the breaches you hear now, or we hear of now, are around breaches on data that have been hacked into even governments. Here in the US, they had a lot of breaches, and exposing profile people.
OK, Greg Sim, thank you for speaking to us here on Sky News.
Thank you very much, Rebecca.
The former Manchester United and Chelsea chief executive Peter Kenyon is planning a takeover bid for Newcastle United that could end Mike Ashley's decade-long ownership at the club. The Sky News broke the story this afternoon that Mr Kenyon has approached a number of potential financial backers, all in recent weeks, about the idea of collaborating on a deal. From Newcastle, Gerard Tubb sent this report.
Newcastle supporters have wanted owner Mike Ashley out of the club for years, blaming him for a lack of investment and a lack of ambition. But on Mike Ashley wanting to sell at the price on offer. Gerard Tubb, Sky News at St James's Park.
Everyone knows that Neil Armstrong was the first man to walk on the moon, but very little's known about his own personal story. But in a new film, First Man is set to change that. It stars Ryan Gosling as Armstrong and Claire Foy as his wife Janet. But as our arts and entertainment correspondent Lucy Cotter now reports, President Trump says he won't be watching. You're watching Sky News. Coming up, Manchester United. Now, it's been a very busy day of sport. Let's get an update from the Sky Sports News Centre.
This programme is brought to you by Vitality Health and Life Insurance. Getting active brings its own rewards.
Just throw it a bit lower, then you wouldn't have to jump.
Hello again. With a day to go at the Ryder Cup, Europe lead the USA 10-6. Well, there's more Premier League reaction right now on Sky Sports News, and we're back with Sportsline at 7:30. See you then.
Yeah, I'd lend you my nice warm coat, but no, what am I saying? I wouldn't.
Time now to get a check on all the latest weather.
From warm, flowing island winds to an enchanting desert breeze.
It'll be windy tomorrow with showers in the north and a lot more cloud in the south. Before then, though, most places will have a fine evening, but Scotland and the northwest of Ireland will be breezy with a few showery outbreaks.
The weather, sponsored by Qatar Airways.